Hello, everybody, and welcome to Sacred Games Daily, a daily segment that's going to be about 30 minutes long on YouTube with me and Joe talking about the latest gaming news that's out, and we're gonna try it out today and see how it works. This could be the first of thousands. This could be the first of two. We don't know. We're just going to try it out, but we're going to go ahead and kind of talk about what is the new hot news of the day here on YouTube exclusively, and just kind of get into it and discuss it. So, Joe, we got two main topics today. Do you want to introduce yourself, Joe? I mean, you've been on the channel before, you've been on the podcast, you've been everywhere, but do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name's Joe. I like to call myself a content creator, very small time, but yeah, I mean, me and Bryan did Critical Frames, or do Critical Frames rather, and I've been on the podcast many times, been in the community for a long time, and just happy to be here with my single malt scotch, chilling out, ready for the news. So
I got a cherry coke. The hope here is that we have a little bit of install base on the Sacred Icon YouTube. So maybe Joe and I could talk about some fun game news just daily as it comes out for a little bit, and maybe a couple hundred people would show up to watch it. That would be nice. If you're watching this now and you're 2 days from now and you're looking down at the view count and it says 19, that'd be hilariously pathetic. And here you go. But we're gonna try anyway. So. First thing today, this is March 4th, 2024, Monday, and we have Dragon Age Dreadwolf is scheduled to release this year, it's claimed. Jeff Grubb, which is a known gaming insider, says that Dragon Age Dreadwolf could potentially launch sometime in late 2024. In December 2023, BioWare officially confirmed that a full reveal was coming in this summer, which I remember them saying that, but I didn't think if there was a reveal this summer, especially when we haven't seen much at all, I didn't think it would come out this year. But Jeff Grubb goes on to say that it's supposed to be coming out this year. With a full reveal coming so soon, this does support Grubb's stated release window. However, BioWare has not confirmed anything officially about Dragon Age Dreadwolf's release. Grubb also mentioned that BioWare's employees feel confident about the release window. Many of Grubb's previous statements on Game Pass have also proven reliable later on. However, Grubb does mention that they are uncertain about the release window, when it will be revealed, so it may come earlier or later than the official announcement claims. So I thought this was interesting because BioWare has kind of been a troubled studio for a while now. And we've heard about Dragon Age Dreadwolf for, I want to say, close to 3 years, maybe a little less, but quite some time now. Their last release that wasn't the Mass Effect Legendary Collection was Andromeda, right?
Yep, or am Andromeda.
I wrong?
Yep.
Andromeda.
Yeah.
And Andromeda, I mean, I found a lot to like in Andromeda, but I think it's pretty universal that that game didn't live up to the expectations of the Mass Effect franchise. And BioWare has just kind of been taking L's for a while with it, Andromeda and Anthem. And I know Inquisition was actually Game of the Year, one Game of the Year back at the Game Awards.
It was a weak year, though, I remember correctly.
But it was a very weak year, and it seems pretty clear to everyone now in retrospective that, like, they skated by the hair of their teeth. Like, that really wasn't quite Game of the Year material, even though I really enjoyed it too. And the Dragon Age series has just been all over the board. I mean, Dragon Age Origins was its one thing, and then Dragon Age 2 was like this completely different feeling game that wasn't the same level of scope, that was supposed to be a DLC at one point. And then Inquisition was like a marrying of the two projects into one. And now we have Dreadwolf. And if Dreadwolf is coming out this year, we haven't seen much on it.
No.
It's kind of up in the air if BioWare can deliver or not.
Yeah.
And we saw some leaked footage of Dreadwolf like a year ago. I don't know if you ever saw that, Joe.
Yeah.
I did. And I don't know. Josh asked me the other day, like, if this happens, am I picking this up this year? And I basically told him, like, if it comes out, I'm planning to pick it up. It'll kind of come down to if the reviews are decent. Like, if the reviews are at least 7 or higher, I'll probably pick it up because I like Dragon Age Dreadwolf. Sure. Like, I liked Andromeda. But if the reviews are like, oh, it's crap, 5, 4 out of 10, undercooked, underdeveloped, I probably would just skip it. But what do you think, Joe? Do you think this game will actually release this year? And regardless of whether it releases this year or not, do you think Dragon Age Dreadwolf is going to be a good game?
Yeah, it's in a really tricky spot, right? Because, I mean, it's kind of in many ways, they're already kind of in the bad books ever since Andromeda. And I mean, even Inquisition for many people was kind of lackluster for being kind of very collectathon-y, and obviously West.
To me, that game is the definition of bloat.
Yeah, exactly.
Just look at Dragon Age Inquisition.
Yeah, and Wes in the community will completely disagree with me on that. But
I love Dragon Age Inquisition like Wes. I just probably don't think it's as good as he does. But
it's just, I've never really been that big of a fan of Dragon Age in general. It's very high fantasy. It's very like tropey in that way. And I mean, I like the first from what I played of it. I never beat it, and I barely touched 2, and I got maybe 20 hours into Inquisition before throwing it in the bin. But yeah, and I just think they're kind of like, the way I picture BioWare right now, they're in like the Bethesda state where they're kind of like just teetering on, trying to hopefully reinvent themselves. And that's one thing that was like shown with the gameplay, right? Or leaked with the gameplay. It was, it seemed to be more of a hack and slashy kind of style. It seemed to be taking notes. Like, I think people said it was taking notes from the new God of Wars and stuff. And and you run the risk of alienating the current fans, and also like obviously bringing in new
every
fans.
game's done.
Yeah,
the series has lacked an identity from the beginning.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things about Dragon Age for me personally. It's a very weird franchise in the sense that it's very inconsistent with what it wants to be in many ways. Slash, even if you just look at the consistency of it, that's telling. But yeah, I don't know if it'll come this year. I honestly think with this leak, they potentially pivot now and potentially try and move it on. Last year's gameplay didn't look too promising in terms of how far along they were in relation to this news now. So I feel like this might be a point where they maybe look at this, and this was like their kind of target release window internally, and then now that Jeff Grubbs leaked this, they'll probably be like, oh wait, let's not do that now. That's just me going off of what I saw from that leaked gameplay. But I mean, in all honesty, I'm not that excited for it, just simply because, I mean, BioWare and Dragon Age for me have been snoozes. If this was the Mass Effect game, I would be like, okay, I'm excited because I love Mass Effect. Like, it's awesome. But, well, not Andromeda. But maybe, but I don't see it.
I'm not that hyped either, but I do like Dragon Age, and like Dreadwolf would be a big enough release that I would be interested in picking it up. Basically, it comes down to, and I know for some people they're going to be like, wow, Brian, your expectations are awful, but it would have to be at the absolute least as good as Andromeda for me to pick it up. I feel like Andromeda was like a very 7 out of 10 game. I could even see like a 6. Where did you land on Andromeda?
When it came out, it depends. Like, I've got two very different scores.
I played it after it was all good.
Okay, so I played it at launch. I'd like, from a game design standpoint, like whether it functions, like a 3. Like, it's a bad game, and that's why I consider bad like a 3 out of 10. I think once it got finished up, I'd probably give it a 7. That's where I'm at. That's comfortably where I put it, just because it was working, you know. But like, it never did anything more for me aside from just being like, oh, this is another thing for me to indulge upon.
Another Mass Effect, So, I mean, do we think Dreadwolf do we think it's going to be in that Andromeda pocket, or do we think this is a return to form Mass Effect 2 level?
I mean, we're even forgetting Anthem, right? Like, you know, we completely forgot about that flubbing, but
I did mention it at the top.
I think this game will work out the gate better than Andromeda, but I think that it will have the same problems that a lot of Dragon Ages have. And that is the lack of consistency in terms of, like, the visions are always skewed. If
it's got God of War gameplay, that's just going to feel like a 4th different type of Dragon Age.
Yep.
You know?
Exactly. Yeah. So. And the thing is if you start to try and compete with those other games, like Dragon Age was always in its own kind of pocket in many ways. Because it was like kind of one of the first sort of console RPGs that had kind of that turn-based style, right? Like that.
It was like Baldur's Gate kind of.
Yes, yeah. Like it had that like high fantasy, like non-JRPG turn-based style, and that was unique at the time, you know, from a Western studio. But now, I don't know. Like, if you transition to that new phase, you're gonna make people inevitably compare you to Sony hack and slash games like God of War, or if you don't transition, you've got to like be better than Dragon Age Origins. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think the general opinion of the Dragon Age series is like Origins was a strong entry point, and then 2 was a letdown, and Inquisition was a letdown, and Dreadwolf will probably be a letdown. I hope it's good. I hope it's a solid game. I want it to be good. I want to pick it up and enjoy it.
Yeah.
I know Jeff Grubb is extremely credible, and I'm sure what he's saying is probably correct to some degree. But I'm going to go ahead and put my chips on it doesn't release this year.
Yeah.
Because we haven't seen it officially really much at all. They have confirmed that they'll be showing it off, like the full reveal this summer. But I know like Bethesda, they like to do the whole big reveal at summertime and then 4 months later the game drops like they did for Starfield and Fallout 4. I just don't see that happening with BioWare here. Like nothing about BioWare over the last decade makes me feel confident that they have this game close to finished, polished up. They're going to reveal it in June and then release it in October. I just don't see that happening. So I think this, maybe like you said, was going to come out at one point this year, but I think it's probably coming out next year. Maybe not even early next year. Maybe maybe fall of next year. But my other question would be, if it did come out this fall, what do we know for what kind of competition it has? And I know I haven't prepared, like I haven't researched this at all, but I'm trying to think of what Dragon Age would have as competition if it did come out this fall. I can't think of anything in particular. Maybe you Avowed from Xbox would be in there.
Yeah.
Like the Indiana Jones, but that's like a totally different game. You get your Call of Duty, but I feel like the one positive to it releasing this fall is it may not have that strong a competition.
Yeah, I mean, isn't potentially Star Wars Outlaws in that pocket as well?
They're saying it's coming out this year.
Yeah.
I guess it depends on how many weeks apart they were, because once again, that's quite a different game from Dragon Age Dreadwolf. Like, what I'm saying is Dreadwolf wouldn't have, it seems like, big competition from your Bethesda RPGs, your maybe bigger JRPGs, like other RPGs that would make people look. This might be like, I want to play a fantasy RPG and there's nothing else this fall. I'll pick up Dreadwolf.
The only thing I can think of is Greedfall 2, because as far as I'm aware, that is, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, but that is from ex-BioWare developers, some of them. And it oozes their style, but the thing with that is they are a AA studio, so it won't, and it's a AA game, so it doesn't have as many eyes on as like a Dragon Age and a BioWare does. So, but that's the only thing I can think of this year. So maybe it would be, like you said, I think it's intelligent for them to release it this year, assuming they've got it done. But that's because the thing is if you look at like the recent history of BioWare games, is competition has not dragged them down. It's themselves that have dragged themselves down. And the history can repeat itself quite easily in this case. So we'll have to see.
Yeah, I think ultimately, like you said, the most important thing is that they launch a good game. The problem is, I think the general vibes around Dreadwolf is that we're all expecting absolute best case scenario, like extreme best case scenario. This is like an 8 out of 10. And that's like literally extreme. I think we're all thinking like probably like a 7, kind of 6, like problems, not like BioWare greatness. And what they really need is a title that people contemplate. Oh, is this a 10 out of 10? Like that's what they need to come back to the scene with. I don't think Dreadwolf is that, but if it could be that, like let's not rush it out this year to beat competition. Let's let it cook a little bit, because if BioWare could put out one game that got people talking about like, oh, it's a generational game again, all it takes is one to put BioWare back on the map, and we just haven't seen that in a long time. So, I think those are good thoughts. Over to our second piece of news. I'm guessing other days we'll probably have a lot more news than today, but at least that gives us more time to talk on these particular topics. The other big news for the day is the Xbox Partner Preview was announced for March 2024, and it says, today we are thrilled to announce the next Xbox Partner Preview, this time featuring a mix of new and upcoming games for you from publishers like Capcom, Nexon, EA, and others, with more than a dozen new trailers over the course of a 30-minute broadcast. So this appears to be kind of like the Nintendo Publisher Direct we got a week or two ago, which is like, hey, this is Xbox focused, but it's for third party, it's not for us. This is going to be on Wednesday, March 6th at 10 a.m. Pacific time. So just 2 days here, and it'll be 30 minutes long. I'm going to probably butcher the names of these games, but it says, during Xbox Partner Preview, you can learn more about combat and traversal in Tales of Kenzera Zau, with a video narrated by Abubakar Salim himself.
Nice. Yep.
See new gameplay from Kunitsugami, Path of the Goddess.
Nice.
And get a closer look at the first Berserker, Kazan. and other great titles coming to Xbox, Windows, or Game Pass.
3 for 3 there, baby.
Didn't do too bad there. Our Xbox partner preview format is all about sharing exciting game news from our talented studios from across the globe with no frills, just new game reveals, release date announcements, and fresh new gameplay from upcoming games, coupled with unique behind-the-scenes stories from developers on Xbox Wire. Okay, so to take the positive angle first, I really love what Xbox has done basically over the last year in regards to their showcases and their reveals. As far as things like the developer direct we just saw like 2 months ago with Indiana Jones stuff, that was great. I think this will be great as a 30-minute quick, hey, here's gameplay for our partners. I know last year the big like E3 moment with Starfield was awesome. So I think Xbox is killing it with their like showcases and their showing off games and letting creators behind the scenes talk about what they're doing, seeing the studio working on the game. We've seen that a lot with like the developer direct. I love that. I think that's great. I think to go more on the negative side, not really negative, but just to set expectations, I think people probably shouldn't be getting excited really for this Wednesday showing because it is what it's announced to be. It's a partner preview for third parties, and what they're spotlighting are games that they're not widely known games, or to some extent games I haven't heard of before. I do recall Tales of Kenzera Zao. I think that was at the Game Awards.
It was, yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
I recall that one. The other two I don't recall, but I think you probably want to temper expectations. This is the kind of thing I remember when Josh and I were doing Halo stuff all the time. People would be like, "Do you think there's going to be Halo at the Xbox partner preview?" And it's like, they said it was
Zelda.
Yeah, it's like they said it was third party, and people go, "Yeah, but it could be like a third party collab with 343." It's like
There's always
but I think
some way.
but I think it's for smaller titles, like indie titles. Yeah, but it could be a third party indie Halo title. It's like, no, guys, there's no Halo here. But I don't know. What do you think, Joe? Do you think I'm on point with what this partner preview is going to be? And do you have any interest in seeing any of these games mentioned?
Yeah, I think you're on point. I don't think there's any reason to speculate that there's going to be like another Gears announcement or some crazy job, and especially not Halo, guys. Calm down.
It's going to be there, Joe.
It's going to be there.
EA's Halo.
Is that the Palace of Pain, Brian?
I think it might be.
And just take one from Josh's playbook there. But I mean, I'm excited for it. Like Tales of Kenzera is from the voice actor / not the voice actor, because that's a huge disservice to his role because he killed it in Assassin's Creed Origins, but Bayek from Assassin's Creed Origins, the main character.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, the guy you tried to pronounce his name, Abu Bakr Salim. Yeah, all respect to him. Like he came out on the Game Awards, didn't he? And like was dead emotional and
I know. That's why I remember it.
Yeah,
very emotional.
Yeah, like that was a highlight of the show for me. That was the highlight of the show for me before I tuned out. I went to sleep at 4 a.m. But
didn't he was talking about his father he lost?
And it was like
that was good, dude.
Yeah, he like dedicated to his father and all that stuff. And it was like he was quite moving. You know, it was quite emotional and stuff. And it looks like a really cool like action platformer that is like really rooted in like his heritage and stuff. And I really like love the idea of it. Like the I don't get enough time to play action platformers because when I was young, like I really kind of grew up on like the PS1 era, so it was a lot of like Metal Gear Solid and Crash Bandicoot and stuff like that, and Ratchet and Clank, and once we got into the PS2 and stuff like that, I always wish I had more time to play because I've kind of lost my roots when it comes to that action platformer style. But yeah, Tales of Kenzera looks like it has a lot of soul. I'm definitely intrigued to see more of it. So I probably won't watch the showcase in this regard, but I will definitely catch up on the trailers like post once it's over. And then Kunitsugami Path of the Goddess, that was I think I don't know if that was on a Sony showcase, like as a third party release or something.
Yeah, I don't recall that one personally.
Yeah, but it looked like if you Google it, like it's a really artistically driven, like obviously very Japanese. It's just beautiful. Like it's a very cool like video game with a lot of like heritage, and it seems like it's from like the Edo period of Japan. It's very mythological. It's got a lot of like cool designs of enemies and stuff. It looks like it's kind of maybe Souls inspired in many ways. I know that's kind of like becoming tripe with the way people always talk about Souls being the thing. And then the first Berserker, it seems familiar, but I'm not quite sure on if I've seen it before. I'm sure I have at some sort of, I don't know, conference or something. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for the first two games that I mentioned. But aside from that, yeah.
Do you think that the games, like, because it says there'll be upcoming games that we have a mix of new and upcoming games. Do you think we'll see anything of a larger scale than those three? Because the fact that they spotlighted those three made me think that there will be nothing bigger than that. Like EA, Nexon, Capcom, I mean, would we see a new announcement for anything bigger than that? I'm thinking probably wouldn't.
I mean, it says all the great titles, right, coming to Xbox, Windows, and Game Pass. I mean, the problem when you ask me this question, Brian, is I really don't know much about like Xbox's platform. Like, I don't spend time on it as much as like you do in many ways, or you spend time like in that ecosystem. So if anyone is to know about that, it's you. But I can see them being like tidbits. Like,
yeah, I think it's going to be mostly this scale because I think it's just a matter of like this is. The big thing is like where this might not have been as interesting in a 360 era. This is stuff that's going to come to Game Pass, so that makes it more for bulking up the service. Yeah. If you're ready to move on past that, Joe, we actually have a few more minutes available, and I had one more brief story I hadn't talked over. I think you'd be interested in talking about. Today, the team at Rocksteady is teasing the season 1 for Suicide Squad: Kill the Justice League, and I know, Joe, that you and I had kind of joked back and forth about the success of Suicide Squad: Kill the Justice League. For all those that know me, you know that I was very excited to see the downfall of this game because I just felt like it was not reading the room of what gamers wanted at all. It was not what Rocksteady probably wanted to make. You can see the influence of the studio trying to chase trends and be a live service game with a mandatory online connection, even though this is a studio predominantly known for single player, and there's the microtransactions and everything. And they've come out since release already and said this fell way below expectations. It's going to be a tough year for them, and the game is already in, I don't know if it's been out a full month yet, about a month though. It's already down $20 off, so it's down from $70 to $50 already, and I would wager in a couple months we'll see it at 30, and by the end of the year, I mean, maybe just straight up like $19.99 type deal.
Yeah, I mean, it's another Anthem.
It's another Anthem, but the thing is, the player count for this is so low, and the success is so non-existent. When they're teasing today, season 1, which it's teased, the Twitter for Suicide Squad teases, get ready for season 1. The jokes are coming March 28th. Ha! And it shows a picture of the Joker. Because the Joker is going to be a new character added at the end of the month for season 1. So, what do you think? Here's my two questions, Joe. We have because we're trying to keep this this content that we're making short and sweet. Yep. So we get about 5 minutes left to discuss this. These are the two talking points I have for you, Joe. Do you think this season 1 brings in a noticeable amount of more players? The fact of the matter is, it will bring in more players. You introduce new content, the player numbers will go up. It's just will it go up in any way that makes any difference at all? Especially when it seems that the gameplay and the level design is just the same over and over again for this game, with no variation. So, will the Joker do much at all for this? And then my second bigger question is, I think they've announced that they have a roadmap for 4 seasons, a year's worth. Do they complete the entire roadmap to begin with? And even if they do they do any content beyond that? Over to you, Joe. What do you think?
No and no.
Yeah, that's what I think. That's how I feel.
Yeah, no, there's just no chance.
So do you think that, because they promised 4 different seasons with new characters, do you think those make it out the door, or do you think they're going to cut it off before then?
I think they might cut it off before then.
I
think
because if they see season 1, if season 1 is a net loss of revenue, maybe they'll do season 2. But then if that's a net loss of revenue, why would they do 3 and 4? I know they promised it, but if it's not bringing them any money to do them, then why? You know what I mean?
It's probably costing them more in terms of keeping the developers on, keeping the work going, keeping the servers maintained, keeping patches rolling out than it is just getting players in for season 1. I wouldn't I think it's 200 to 400 players right now on Steam on PC.
That's insane,
which is terrible, right?
This is a massive WB DC Suicide Squad high production.
Yeah,
and nobody cares.
Yeah. And I think that I think season 1 might bring in maybe 3,000 most, if that.
But then after a couple days, it's back off.
I mean, I said this on the Critical Frames episode we recently did. This people aren't playing this game necessarily because it's a bad video game, like capital
Yes.
B 3 out of 10. People are not playing this game out of pure principle. They do not want to play these games anymore. They do not want to play hollow, shelled out, corporatized live service tripe.
Yeah.
And that's the bottom line, basically. And you will never get around that. They would have to fundamentally redesign the game from the core basis of what it is to get people to actually like it and reboot the game. Kind of like how Final Fantasy 14 did or something like that, but much more.
That's the thing is, like, if Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League had came out exactly as it is now, with no online live service component, no microtransactions, I don't think it would have changed the conversation that much. Because the game itself, at its foundation, is not very good. There's elements of it that are good, like the production values, the voice acting. I've seen some of the cutscenes; they're awesome.
Yeah,
but it's
they're the best part. People always say the cutscenes are the best.
Yeah, but like the game is just repetitive and not special, and it's the same missions repeated and the same enemies you're fighting over and over again, and bad UI and all that stuff. So I would say there's definitely zero chance of plans beyond their roadmap that they announced. And I would say that if the first season, for sure, in the second season, if they don't show a noticeable increase in microtransactions, or I think it's just cut off and done. And I think there'll be the typical, you'll hear the stuff from WB like, against our best expectations, somehow it failed to deliver, and we have to blah, 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 blah. And then the game will just be, we'll see this. I mean, in 2 years, this is the game I think we could see on a shelf for like $3.99, like literally like $4. Like, it's just like they can't get rid of the million copies they have out there, so it's just like nothing. But any further thoughts before we get out of here, Joe? We talked about Dragon Age Dreadwolf maybe coming out this year, the Xbox partner preview in 2 days, and a lackluster popularity for Suicide Squad Kill the Justice.
The only thing I'll say is it's a shame, that like such a once great studio has basically been trivialized and simplified into essentially just corpo gorbo in many ways. It's a shame, and the best way to kind of represent that or see that take sort of a manifestation is in the way they treated Batman. Like it's a representation of Suicide Squad in Kill the Justice League entire. So it's a shame. It's a real shame because there's some talented developers over there. You can see the passion, you can see the elements that are amazing in that game for certain like parts of that game. The cutscenes, the graphics, the engine, the combat is smooth, the verticality is pretty good, but everything else around that makes the most impact to players and it means the most is useless, and it's a shame.
That was a top 3 studio for me at one point. Some of my favorite games ever, and they've been forced to work on something that I can't imagine they're all too passionate about for so long. And the leaders that everyone knew from Rocksteady had left probably about 2 years ago now. So it's just a shame. But guys, that is the news for March 4th, Monday, for video game news. And we will hopefully be back at you tomorrow if you guys enjoyed this one. So thank you so much for listening. And as always, keep it sacred daily.
Peace.